Well, good afternoon. It is Mindful Monday, and I'm so excited about today's segment. And so I just want to first introduce Miss or Dr. Kelsey Dachman. She is with Supportive Communities, and she just has some just great information to enlighten us all. My name is Marilyn Chappell, and I'm with Exceeds Expectations. And I'm just going to go ahead and get right on in. And first, I just want to welcome you. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Dachman.
Thank you so much for having me. I am very excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, so I am Dr. Kelsey Dachman. I am the founder and CEO of Center for Supportive Communities. I'm also a board certified behavior analyst at the doctoral level. I live in Kansas City, Missouri right now. I'm actually originally from a suburb of Chicago. So I am a huge Cubs fan and I do love my deep dish pizza, but I
Yes.
also love the Chiefs. So go Chiefs.
Go Chiefs.
I graduated from the University of Kansas with my PhD. And then a few years later, I started Center for Supportive Communities.
Awesome. So what was the driving force for, starting supportive communities?
Yes, that is a great question. So, as a doctoral student, I had the pleasure of working with our local detention center. I worked with our day detention school. I taught classes in youth development and juvenile justice. I worked on the behavioral pediatrics unit at Children's Mercy Hospital. So, a lot of my experiences, although they were wonderful, they opened my eyes to a lot of the complex problems facing our youth and families, especially those involved in the justice system. It was always extremely difficult to secure quality behavioral health services for these kids and families. And from what we were seeing, I mean, it was absolutely devastating. So too many kids were slipping through the cracks, and too many professionals were burnt out trying to figure out what the heck to do with the behavior that they were seeing in these kids and families. So that was really the driving force of starting Center for Supportive Communities.
Yes, thank you for what you do. I mean, it's an important work, right? And so we just appreciate you and your passion to be an answer. And so I know that you have some great stuff to share with us. So I won't. I'll hold some of my questions for later. And so I will go ahead and give you access to share your screen so you can share your presentation.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. So please feel free to add any questions you have or comments in the chat box that we have. And I would love to spend some minutes answering questions and engaging in conversation with you all. I definitely do love to interact. So please do feel comfortable asking questions and or making comments, whatever it is. So Center for Supportive Communities, we are a 501c3 organization in Lawrence, Kansas, and we are dedicated to using behavior science to create equal opportunities and meaningful change for children, families, and communities. So just to give you some background about behavior science, it's also called applied behavior analysis, and it is a best practice treatment based on the circumstances view of behavior. So in other words, we believe that the environment is what drives behavior. So we strive to change the context in which problems occur rather than changing the person themselves. So we believe that there is no such thing as a bad boy, only a bad environment, bad modeling, and bad teaching. In other words, bad circumstances. We consult with providers and organizations to enhance the quality of their behavioral services and to unite communities in supporting our young people. For example, we have helped schools improve their internal processes to increase school attendance, improve the overall school climate, and decrease rates of suspension and expulsion. We've helped juvenile detention centers implement reinforcement-based systems to encourage compliance with daily tasks and to decrease altercations with staff and peers. We've helped parents implement basic behavioral strategies in their homes to promote good behavior. We also operate support ed, which will be the main focus of my presentation today and what I want you all to focus most on. So support ed is a community-based diversion program for legally truant youth. So in Kansas, a student is legally truant and subject to court involvement if they miss 3 consecutive school days, 5 school days in a semester, or 7 school days in a year, whichever one they meet first. So rather than going into court for truancy, students and their families are offered our support ed diversion program, basically as a rehabilitative community alternative. So we use behavior science to counteract missed educational instruction, increase school attendance and engagement, instill confidence, and get kids back on track towards success to prevent more complex behavior that would really only pull them deeper into the system. Support Ed is also a training site for undergraduate and graduate students studying applied behavior analysis or behavior science, psychology, social work, or education, juvenile law, any of those fields or related fields. These students are placed at Support Ed to fulfill a course or degree requirement or to complete their field education, and they work individually with our truant youth and implement evidence-based behavioral health interventions, which really allows us to infuse behavior science into communities at no cost to the family or the school. Our model combines evidence-based practices shown to be effective in reducing truancy, and we do this to create a real comprehensive program that meets every student's unique needs. So we have a functional behavior assessment and individualized treatment plan. We do weekly one-to-one mentoring for an hour and a half each week. We monitor the students' attendance, grades, and behavior. We involve the family and the school. We engage in ongoing data collection and evaluation. And if necessary, we also have the backup from the court. So every student who participates in our program is assigned to a mentor, and our mentors are undergraduate and graduate students, usually at the University of Kansas. Mentoring is essential to our program because many of our supported students lack a caring adult in their lives, and they are really craving structure and support. And mentoring is really helpful with making sure that every student has a caring adult in their life. And our kids absolutely love working with their cool college mentors, and they get to sample the benefits of attending college when their mentor takes them around campus or to a college basketball game. It is a wonderful way to motivate younger students to stay in school and engaged in learning. Each of our mentors work individually with 1 to 4 students at a time, and they help us conduct our functional behavior assessments. They facilitate one-to-one weekly meetings. They help families access community services and resources. They teach functional skills. They help with homework. They bridge communication gaps between families and schools, and they monitor and celebrate the students' progress. So I'm going to go into each of these components just in a little detail so that you can understand really what the basis of our program is and what we do. So once a student is assigned to a mentor, we begin administering our functional behavior assessments, and this is to determine the why. So why is truancy occurring in the first place? It's different for every single kid. So we need to examine the student's attendance to identify patterns and absences, look at their grades, read through any school disciplinary reports if they're available, and administer functional questionnaires with the student's parents, and then a school representative. So we are doing individual interviews to make sure that we are gaining a complete picture of the student's truancy. And here are some examples of the questions that we ask the student. And again, we do this for the student, the parent, and the school. Basically, we strive to create socially significant change for students and families. And this really does require an understanding of our student and families' culture, their background, how their sociocultural background affects their beliefs on school attendance and education. And this requires us to ask many personal questions. So when designing our functional assessments, we looked to recommendations in the literature on culturally sensitive practices to make sure that we were proceeding in a compassionate and respectful way. So our assessment provides us information about barriers that impede school attendance, for example, not having reliable transportation to school or experiencing homelessness. We want to consider if anything is preventing the student from attending school, if the student has a morning routine in place, if the student has a way of waking up in the morning, or if they need an alarm clock. We need to ask, is the family experiencing homelessness? Is it because the student is being bullied in school and stays home to avoid that person or that group of peers? Is it because they are so far behind in their classes and are now avoiding school altogether? Maybe it's because they are staying up all night texting their friends, and we need to figure out how to remove the electronics from their bedroom at night. Our assessment also provides insights into any previous traumatic experiences that we need to consider when we're creating our interventions. So after we determine the why, then we need to respond accordingly. So we work with our mentors to design an attendance plan that is based on the results of our assessment, and it's individualized to each student and family. And then we train our mentors on implementing the evidence-based best practices that target really the idiosyncrasies of each student and their family. So for example, we provide families with bus passes so that their child can get to school. We provide alarm clocks. We create morning and bedtime routines. We teach students how to effectively manage their anxiety and anger. We provide homework help and teach them how to get organized, how to plan ahead, how to study. We attend IEP meetings to help identify appropriate school accommodations. We work with parents on limit setting and implementing reasonable consequences for attendance and absences. And most importantly, in my opinion, we provide a stable source of support for students, families, and schools. And then this treatment plan is implemented during the weekly one-to-one meetings between the mentor and the student. And these meetings are an hour and a half each week until they graduate or exit our program. Also during the meetings, they complete relationship development activities to establish that good rapport and trust. They discuss interests and set goals. They complete homework and missing assignments. They teach skills, so social, academic, daily living skills. They problem solve. And of course, they celebrate the student for any progress that is made. We implement an intervention called a contingency contract. And basically, this is just to set clear expectations and provide rewards for going to school. Typically, that is always our students' responsibility. It is to go to school. Each day school is in session with no unexcused absences. And if they do meet that responsibility, then they get to do a fun activity with their mentor during their weekly meeting. We also include a bonus responsibility. So if you go to school for 3 consecutive weeks, then you get to do a fun activity for the whole meeting time, plus you get a $10 gift card. So every intervention we implement has a reinforcement-based component to motivate and reward the student for positive behavior. And this is an essential component of any behavioral program, but if we want good behavior to continue, then we must reinforce that good behavior every time we see it. And depending on the student, we might need to implement additional interventions. So for example, a morning and bedtime routine. Here is one example of a morning and bedtime routine that we created for a younger student. So we sit down with them, we make sure that the routine matches their morning and bedtime living environments. We need to make sure that these routines work for them. We can add visual cues in for younger kids. We also teach kids how to develop healthy habits. So we provide parents with our top 10 sleep expert recommendations. We teach kids how to take care of themselves physically, mentally, and emotionally. Sometimes kids aren't taught these skills growing up, so we need to teach them to make sure that they are not falling behind. We use a fluency procedure that is very helpful when kids are struggling with a certain subject like math or reading or writing. It is common for our students to have difficulty with executive functioning skills like organization, planning, studying. So we use a procedure called behavioral skills training, and we teach them how to get organized. We help them do it. We sit down with them. We bring out all of their folder systems, or we give them folders to create folder systems so that they can get organized. We help them plan ahead. We help them make to-do lists. And then we have them actually practice it until we know that they can do it themselves.
So, Dr. Dachman, I wanted to ask you a question. This is such good information. I'm like, oh, I can't wait until the end. So I love the system that you guys have put together and the processes that you guys take to really get to learn the individual as well as their parents and it sounds like even the school, but I wanted to get clarification. So do you guys go into the schools and work with the student at the schools, or is this after school at like your location?
Good question. So this is, sometimes we do go into the schools. It depends on the level of intervention that the student requires. But our weekly 1.5-hour meetings are done in the community. So we pick neutral locations like the public library. Sometimes our kids love going to the teen zone at the Lawrence Public Library. So we try to make it so that it doesn't seem like a therapeutic setting, because a lot of kids don't thrive in, sitting in an office one-on-one with a therapist. They like to be in the community with someone who's maybe closer to their age, to engage in fun activities while also talking about some serious things going on in their life.
I love that. How creative, and it kind of that's like a barrier, right? It kind of takes down that barrier and makes it more relaxing environment. So I love that. Okay, I just wanted that. I wanted you to clarify that. And then one other question: are you just on the Kansas side as of now?
So right now, yes, we are just in Douglas County, Kansas, which includes Lawrence, Eudora, Perry-Lecompton, and Baldwin. We are looking to expand to Wyandotte County and then also to Missouri. So that is one of our main goals, is to expand this program so that other kids can benefit from our services.
I love it. Well, I will let you continue.
Thank you. We teach kids self-advocacy skills. So many of our students avoid their teachers, but we sit down with them and we explain that their teachers can really only help if they know what's going on with them personally. So we teach students how to advocate for themselves in school, how to ask their teachers for makeup work or extensions on assignments. We schedule meetings between the student and teacher to help build that relationship so the student feels comfortable going back to school. Many kids who are at risk for involvement in the juvenile justice system do show deficits in their social skills. Many teens have difficulty accepting the answer no, which often leads to an emotional outburst or something that likely will get the kid in trouble. So we teach them how to say yes to no, how to wait to speak with the person at a later time. We teach kids how to appropriately manage in-person and cyber bullies. We help them remove certain content from their accounts. We help parents password protect their computer, and we practice strategies that the student can use when in immediate presence of a bully and how to tell a trusted adult about the situation. We also teach kids how to resist peer pressure. Peer influence begins to take over in adolescence. Teens care a lot about what their friends think and what their friends want them to do. So they have a lot of difficulty saying no to their peers. So we teach them how to do it in a way that will allow them to keep their friends, but also continue to engage in healthy behavior. Our anxiety management training is a big one. Many of our students are diagnosed with clinical anxiety. The problem with anxiety, though, is that it is easier to avoid the aversive stimulus or that anxiety provoking stimulus than to face it head on. And we know that the more we avoid something, the worse our anxiety is going to become. So we see many students staying home from school for several days at a time simply to avoid being in school because it's anxiety provoking to them. So we help students identify their triggers and we give them tools to help them manage their anxiety, and then we slowly reintegrate them back into school with support from their parents and their teachers. Same thing with anger management. Many of our students display aggressive behavior. They get into vocal and physical fights with students and teachers, and these fights often result in suspension or expulsion, and we don't want them to get kicked out of school, of course. So we teach students how to identify their triggers and then respond more appropriately. For example, by using assertive communication to express their wants and needs, or calmly walking away and remaining silent. Our mentors also conduct a mental health check at each meeting to assess whether the student is mentally stable and engaging in healthy and safe behavior. Many support ed students struggle with their mental health, just like the general population is struggling with their mental health, especially after COVID. A lot of our kids have suicidal ideations. Some engage in self-injury. Some resort to drug and alcohol use, and some are being abused and neglected. So it is absolutely essential that a trusted adult asks those tough questions so that we can intervene immediately. Our mentors also monitor weekly attendance, behavior, grades, and the students' living conditions. So we are consistently reviewing student progress and making treatment changes accordingly. We are also making sure that our students are receiving at home the appropriate care, custody, and guidance that they need to thrive. And we also engage the family and the school. So when a student is absent from school, it is so important for us as a community to reach out to the entire family. We found that our mentors can be a very stable source of support for families. And so our mentors are required to communicate with every parent each week. We also work alongside the school in a collaborative effort to help the student re-engage in school and appropriately and effectively manage behavioral challenges that are commonly observed when students first re-enter school after being gone for an extended period of time. So mentors really help to bridge communication gaps across the school and the family. But collaborating with schools is simply not enough. The hardships that typically impact truant students and their families can really only be alleviated through community partnerships and collaboration across multiple agencies, including those who are legally responsible for reporting and managing truancy cases, mental health agencies, food and meal assistance services, housing assistance services, pediatricians, special education resources, social workers. The more community partnerships, the more comprehensive care we can provide to students and families, and the more effective we will be at reducing the barriers that could be affecting school attendance. We require each student to maintain 0 unexcused absences for 3 consecutive weeks on the program or with our intervention in place. We then gradually remove components of the intervention for 4 weeks while continuing to monitor their attendance. So basically, we systematically fade our intervention to more natural, to look more like the natural environment. So we don't want to just remove all of our supports at one time. That can be very stressful for families. So instead, we slowly and gradually over time remove our supports while ensuring that the student is still attending school as they were when the intervention was in place. If at any time they start to miss school while we're fading our intervention, then we will re-implement the program component that was most recently faded. And so then we'll fade more slowly over time. If they maintain 0 unexcused absences during the 4-week fading process, then they successfully exit the program. They get a certificate of completion, a gift card. We all celebrate their progress, and basically the terms of their truancy case is dismissed by the district attorney. Then we continue monitoring the student's attendance for 12 months following the completion of their program. That way we can step in if we need to, if progress we see is starting to decline and they are starting to have more absences. However, if during our program their unexcused absences increase or remain stable, then we do ask for backup from the court. So we have a very informal hearing with the district attorney. We are not in front of the judge at this point. It's very informal. It's more of a conference room. We go in, we all sit at the table, and we talk about what we've done so far, the progress that we've seen, and some of the challenges that we are continuing to encounter. And we all discuss with the student and family and school, how should we move forward? Do we need court backup? Do we need another type of intervention? It's really a wonderful way for everyone to kind of brainstorm about what we need to do moving forward. And of course, this is what we are trying to avoid. We do not want to go into court for truancy. And fortunately, an analysis of our final program outcomes of all 603 students who participated in Support Ed since 2008, they do suggest that our program is successful for the majority of students who participate, and only a small percentage end up with court involvement. And more importantly, our consumers are satisfied with our supportive services, and their happiness and progress really are what keeps us motivated to continue doing this meaningful work. So I will turn it back over to you, Marilyn, and we can talk about some more questions if you have them, or if anyone chatted in the comment box.
Yeah, we don't have any comments as of yet, but I do have some questions. A great presentation on allowing us to learn more about what you all do, and wow, great work. I mean, just the behavior analysis that you shared, I think is so important, because I think it goes deeper than just the act, right? When children act up in school, at home, it's deeper than the act. And so can you share with us some examples of how, your work or program has transformed a child's life after working with them?
Yes. So I have a perfect example. The first one that comes right to my head is this past academic year, we were working with 2 littles. We had a 2nd grader and then a kindergartner, siblings. And they were great family who have really gone through a lot of challenges. Nothing that is really in their control at all. A lot of homelessness, poverty issues, food insecurity, and single parent households. Mom is really struggling to, put food on the table. She works 3 jobs, and that completely is understandable that, making sure that food is on the table is going to outweigh making sure your kids go to school. That makes total sense, right? So that's really where we come in. We provide an external support for the family who maybe can't handle it all, and realistically no one should expect them to be able to. So we got these kids to school. They were, before we had been in the picture, the school was very worried about their progress. There was a lot of reading deficits, math deficits, writing. So we got them in school. They became extremely close with their teachers. We set up a routine at home so mom was able to have some concrete way of managing their behavior and providing rewards and really setting those good limits in a positive way, not a punitive way. And so we were able to help them. They got to school and they ended up graduating our program. So that was a very, very successful story for us.
I love it. I love how you guys, as mentors, connect them with the resources, but more than anything, I love how you guys are helping them to overcome the barriers, right? And so I could definitely see where your numbers are coming from as far as the success, because you guys are facing those things head on. Just good stuff. I'm like, good stuff. And so share with us again the counties where you serve currently, and then where you are also trying to extend your reach.
So right now we are only in Douglas County. And so that includes Lawrence, Eudora, Baldwin City, and Perry-Lecompton. So we work with the four main school districts that are in Douglas County right now. And that's the majority of our students do come from the Lawrence public schools. And I think that's because they're a larger school district. But we do serve kids more in those rural communities as well. We would like to hopefully expand to Wyandotte County to work with Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools, Turner School District. I know those two school districts are eager to start a program like this. And we're in communication right now with the district attorney's office to try and figure out how the process will be adapted for Wyandotte County. And I am eager to get this program nationwide. I think it's an effective program, but it's also very practical. It can be adapted to any community, and it's very cost effective because you are working with undergraduate and graduate students who are eager to get that clinical experience, that hands-on experience working with kids and families. So it really, the model is cost effective and it can be adapted anywhere. So fingers crossed that we will be in Missouri in no time.
We're going to say it's already done. Well, I also just want to say once again, thank you for being a supportive organization for communities. You're the link to the parents, to the schools, and that's what it's all about. And I love that you guys are willing to roll up your sleeves and ready to dig in, right? To just transform lives. And, it's not just the child's life, just listening to you, but it's the whole family. And so really love what you guys do. I appreciate you coming on today. Before we go, can you share with us what are some asks of yours? What are some challenges that you're facing that, maybe our listeners can help you to overcome?
Well, funding is always the biggest one, right? to fund a prevention program. I think just making people aware that truancy, it's not just truancy. Truancy can lead to all of those more complex issues that we're focusing on as society, which are also very important, like juvenile crime, for example. A lot of those kids share a history of truancy. So just spreading that awareness of the importance of education, school attendance as protective factors for kids, that we really need funding in the prevention side of things. We need mentors. The more mentors we have, the more kids we can serve. So mentors, we did just get a grant from AmeriCorps which
Oh,
we're super excited about. So we can
yeah.
now offer AmeriCorps members that education award at the end of their service. So that's super exciting. So if you know of any young adults who are interested in getting involved in this work, please send them our way. We would love to engage as many mentors as we possibly can. Board members, we are always looking for board members. So if you are interested in this work and want to help us really advance our mission and grow our program and services, please reach out. Feel free to email me, Kelsey at supportivecommunities.org. I'm happy to chat with each and every one of you who is interested.